So for every single one of you, what is your truth? And share your truth. Share it at a level to which the other person is capable of receiving it in a way that will let you really feel honored.
Boom, 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 dropping bombs. I would have been like, bye, Felicia, get the hell away from my face and don't talk to me again. You got to deliver the truth in the way that the person can hear it, can understand it, and is able to take action from it. Hey, everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we're helping growth minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 280, How to Have Better Fights. And Emilia loves that episode title if you listen to that episode. For today, number 281, Motivation Monday, How to Tell Hard Truths. Most of us really, really struggle when it comes to speaking our truth, just in general, just owning who we are, expressing our wants, expressing our needs. And then what happens when you add the added layer of discomfort of expressing these wants and needs to another person, let alone expressing an uncomfortable want or need or truth to another person? And how do you deal with that? That is what we're going to be diving into today. How do you get to a place where you feel confident and capable of expressing the hard truths that you probably need to say?
Yeah, and I want to start this episode so I'm going to share some personal stories. And in my hope for this episode, I really hope to glean those top 3 takeaways for those more tactical approaches on how to tell hard truths. Because I'm telling you, when I literally, like, it's like every single coaching call, I do have this crop up at one point or another throughout each coaching call. And so I know that as a community, we struggle with this. And I want to get into the whys. But first, I want to kind of share my story around this a little bit so that you can know where this is coming from and what the context is. So I was someone who at a very young age, I didn't realize the difference between what I'll refer to as a truth pebble, which is a small tiny truth that is like, it's like a little flower when you receive it. It's not going to destroy someone's world, versus a truth bullet, which is something that it's like, okay, I see your truth. All right. It's going to be hard for me to receive that, but it's, again, not going to destroy my world. And a truth bomb, which is something that you say and you know someone will be forever changed by receiving that truth. So I grew up, little Emilia was someone who just dropped truth bombs left and right. She did not understand the impact of her words. She did not even care at that point because she didn't know what that did to another human being. And especially, she didn't know what she does now. And I have a specific experience in mind when, when you're an older sister, you have inherently a big influence over your younger sister. And I'm talking about like when you're young, right? So my younger sister, obviously she has her own version of this truth, but this is my story. And I remember at one point she would come home oftentimes being made fun of. She would be critiqued, and she would come home crying from the bus because people were really mean to her. Now, we were probably 9, too young for me to really remember exactly the age, but it was young. And to that extent, I just remember as an older sister I felt so helpless because it was like, why are people being mean? I don't understand. That's not nice. And it just like, it's not fair because like, I want to be right there and like help her, battle the bullies, but I couldn't be right there. And so young, naive, and thinking that this was going to help her,
Oh,
one
no.
day I remember she had pretty much came home from school and we were kind of talking about school or something. And she was like, she always used to make goofy faces. And at one point she had made a face where I think she like stuck her tongue out and she did like a cross eye and like pulled her ears out, kind of like a monkey. And like, I, in my truth bomb glory days, said,
Oh,
"This is why you don't have any friends."
oh.
Yeah, I
Damn.
know.
She laid it on thick.
I did. And that is what you call a truth bomb. And like, while there's a part of me that giggles, I also know that it destroyed her sense of, in many ways, self concept, because she was too young to understand that the intention that was underneath that, of someone who was so young and naive to think that like maybe that's like, maybe you're weird is what's, what's the challenge there. But that wasn't right for me to say. That wasn't right for me to say, but that was one of my truths. And was it the best thing to say? Absolutely not. You can imagine it, just so mean and so hurtful, and just not aware of what the impact was on her at such a young, impressionable age. Now, those were the days where, let's talk about regrets that we have. That's one of my biggest regrets. And I know we say hashtag no regrets, but like at the end of the day, like the way it impacted her for sure, and now we've been able to talk about it and whatnot. And I know that it changed her life forever. But here's the thing, why I tell that story for each and every single one of you is because the how in which we tell hard truths really does matter, meaning the approach. And I think that this story is extremely evident to what we all experience, which is why we struggle to, and why we just, quite frankly, a lot of us don't tell hard truths, is because of what happens on the other side when we do. I
Mm.
can literally look back, and hindsight's obviously 2020. Our relationship was never the same after that, because I just took something that was so near and dear to her, what made her quirky, what made her beautiful as a human being, and I pretty much shoved it down her throat and said, for lack of better words, like, this is why you don't have friends, or this is why people are making fun of you, right? Like, which is a narrative that's just not true. It's just not true. And we've talked about that. However, what I really want to articulate in this story is the fact that we lose love oftentimes when we give hard truths, and when we give a truth that is ours. That doesn't mean it's the full truth, but that's one of the biggest fears that I see time and time again when we do give a hard truth. And because our brain is so familiar to what that fear is of losing love, be it our friends, being our family, being our intimate partner, we actually never tell those hard truths. So what that was for me was a truth bomb. What could have been the truth bullet of that? What could have been the truth pebble of that? I didn't even consider. And here's the thing, now that we're grown, we're adults, we're maturing, we're emotionally healing from all of those wounds, like every single one of you, I'm sure everyone can think of what that was for them. Now we come to the point where we have a whole plethora of life experiences where maybe we didn't tell our hard truth. We didn't tell a truth bomb. We didn't tell a pebble. We didn't even tell a bullet. And now here we are stuck, and you can feel the heaviness of that stuckness when you want to say a truth to someone who maybe did you wrong, did you dirty, called you a name that you didn't like, disrespected you, dishonored you, right? Did something that was not okay with you. How do you get that truth over? And how do you tell that hard truth? And how do you do so in a way that helps your fear not prevent that from unburdening you, prevent that from hurting the person on the other end? Because that's where I find so many of us are not actually telling our truth.
If you're listening to this show, you've probably also had many, many experiences in your life where people were just throwing truth bombs at you with no consideration of your feelings. So there's probably multiple fears layered underneath this. Number one, you don't want to do to somebody else what was done to you. And number two, you probably were shut down very often in your past. Whenever you did try to tell someone a truth, even if it was a really kind, you probably were shut down. You probably were criticized or shamed or guilted or blamed whenever you did express a truth. So you learned to just not say anything anymore. So, what we're going to dive into next are 3 steps that you can start taking so that your voice can be heard and so that you can feel as though you're deserving of saying what you have to, so that your needs and um your like most authentic self is being honored.
Definitely. And so this is where we fast forward into the complete opposite end of the spectrum of my story, which is where I am now. And again, it took so many years to get here. So I do want to preface this. Where I am now is I own my own home. I'm doing this thing called Evolve Ventures that is impacting hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Bianca and I are literally doing something that's never been done before. And I have so much pride in what we do. And I have so much pride of how we help people around the world. And I'm getting ready to host my first Thanksgiving, my house that I live in now. And I had a really difficult moment happen, which is where a family member that I love and care about and respect and admire so deeply had disrespected me in my own home without even knowing it. Now, what I want to say through this experience was what happens when you feel disrespected? For each one of you, think about a story or an experience that you're growing through right now. Maybe you have something on your heart that's heavy, that's been a truth that you've wanted to get over, someone you love and care about. The thing is, when we can share hard truths, that is, I believe, a deep expression about how much we care. And the approach to which we do that is also exemplary of that. So I was disrespected in my own home, and I had a really tough time with that because, again, I've never been here before. And now, what do I do? How do I share this hard truth? And how do I do it with a person that I love and care about to the extent that I'm mindful of the impact that it could have? Right. I don't want to do a truth bomb because I've been there and I know what that does. It splinters us. I actually want to bring our relationship closer. And that's the biggest thing. So, step number one, what I did, and this is what I'm going to share over the tactical for each and every single one of you, is thought challenge what your biggest fear was. So, for me, that person meaning so much in my life, I was so fearful of having me expressing my hard truth of the fact that that can never happen again. I'm not okay with that. And that was really, it was really hurtful for me. The fact that you don't know me to where you don't know inherently that that's not okay in my household, it brings up a lot of those poked exiles, those parts of us that just feel so unseen, unheard, and undervalued. So with that, one of my biggest fears was that me expressing this hard truth is going to further disconnect us. It's obvious the fact that this disrespect that happened shows me how already disconnected we are. And I don't want to further that gap. In fact, I want to close it through this hard truth in delivering that. So what I had to do was thought challenge that biggest fear. Well, what if this, me sharing my hard truth, my authentic hard truth, what if it actually brings us closer together? That was a simple thought challenge that I had to do. And for each and every single one of us, that what if thought challenge approach can be help you, instead of just having that tunnel vision of whatever your fear is that's preventing you from actually leaning into the truth. It helps you see what could be the alternative perspectives or what else could happen when you share this, so that you're not just focused in on the fear, which will hold you back from expressing that hard truth. So for me, right, that was step number one. For each one of you, I want to really think about, what could you challenge? What is the thought that you could challenge when you acknowledge what your biggest fear is? My biggest fear was further disconnecting. And so the thought challenge was, what if this actually got us closer? Step number
Awesome.
2. B, please comment in here as we go, because I know you've had your fair share of this stuff too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll add when I need to.
Okay. So step number 2 is sharing the truth. Like you can do all the prep work you can, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to get that hard truth over. But this is where the approach and the how really matters. What version of that truth does this level of the relationship truly deserve? Meaning, does it deserve a truth pebble? Can it handle a truth bullet? Can it, meaning the person on the other side, receive and have you bring together closer by receiving a truth bomb? For me, the answer was truth bomb is out of the question. So the way in which I approach it has to be slightly indirect. For me, a truth bullet, this person isn't emotionally at the level that I would like them to be able to handle that. So for me, a truth pebble is really what this is going to have to look like for even step number one to be remotely possible, right? Us actually coming closer together. So, for every single one of you, what is your truth? And share your truth. Share it at a level to which the other person is capable of receiving it in a way that will let you really feel honored.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say this does not mean dim your truth. This does not mean do not express your truth and what you need. This means, do you have the communication capabilities to express your truth in a way that this person can hear it and understand? So if I just go to Emilia and say, you know what, I don't like the way that you act, and maybe
Yeah.
that's my truth bomb, she has no idea what I mean when I say that. I know what I mean, but she has no idea what that would mean if I were to say that. So you need to communicate your real, honest, authentic truth in a way that the other person is capable of understanding it, so
Mm-hmm.
that action can be taken, so that you get your need met. And again, it's at the level the person is capable of. So, like, Emilia and I, a lot of the times, will give each other truth bombs because our relationship is at the point where it can withstand that. But it didn't
Mm-hmm.
start there. Like, if Emilia came up to me the first week of our friendship and was like, B, boom, 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 dropping bombs, I would have been like, bye, Felicia, get the hell away from my face and don't talk to me again. Actually, I was a people pleaser, so probably not. I would have been like, hey, what do you mean? But, anyways, you gotta deliver the truth in the way that the person can hear it, can understand it, and is able to take action from it.
Definitely. I love the visual of like when you think about truth bombs, truth pebbles, truth bullets, relationships, I want you to think of like two islands. And one of my therapists actually inspired this visual, but think of relationships as two separate islands, okay? Each island representing person 1 and person 2, whoever you're in a relationship with. Every single person is building the bridge to the other island, and each are
Mm,
responsible for putting the kind of, I'm picturing, like, for me, I'm thinking islands, I'm thinking tropical, I'm thinking blue water, palm trees, all that happy jazz, blue skies, gorgeous. So picture
gorgeous.
the kind of slats of that bridge between island 1 and island 2. Each of you are responsible for repairing whenever there's a slat that gets blown up by a truth bomb or by a truth pebble or by a truth bullet. And so that is where sharing your truth is absolutely it's so critical and absolutely step number 2. But Bianca, what you said, I would just want to reiterate, because it is the fact that some people just cannot handle, and the relationship sometimes just cannot handle, again, those slats will blow up the ability to continue the relationship, right? So, that being said, this is where step number 3 comes into play. When you get over the line, essentially, you start to roll your truth down that slat, down that bridge from island 1 to island 2, and you're freaking the F out, because this is where all of you, pretty much, you just said your truth and it's like, oh shoot, what happens now? This is where we get so uncomfortable, because we actually show what is important to us, what we need, what we care about, and what we value. And if you're a people pleaser, which a little, I feel like so many of us have that little part of us because of the need to belong, you actually have to trust that this discomfort of you sharing your truth is a step in the right direction for you. And that is number 3. Trust in that discomfort, that this is a step in the right direction for you, whether it be a truth pebble, a truth bullet, or a truth bomb. Based on the relationship, trust in that discomfort. Because for me, when I sent that truth pebble over to this family member, I was terrified. And it was such a beautiful experience because of the fact that I was able to sit in that discomfort and even notice the discomfort in that other person through that dialogue. And I had to trust. And sometimes it might feel like blind faith, baby. I'm telling you. But it put our relationship back in the right direction. And truth be told, what I thought challenged to my biggest fear, it actually drew us in deeper connection than it did us apart. Even
Mm,
though we are wildly different, and even though that could have blown up, But here's the thing, what is worse is you not even trying and not trusting in that discomfort being the right step for you. Because again, we're all going to reflect afterwards and say, okay, how do we do that? How can we improve? But ultimately, how did we tell that hard truth? I don't want it being for you what I find so many people experience, which is, why did I not tell the hard truth? Because that's where regret plants seeds of big emotions that then get stored in our bodies.
Yeah, that discomfort will eventually lead you to fawn and try to take back what you said or try to negotiate your standards or boundaries.
Yeah.
So, learning emotional regulation in that moment and learning how to really self soothe when you say a hard truth, because it is going to be extremely uncomfortable. Even
Yeah.
to today, Amelia, again, I'm going to use you and I. We have a
Yeah.
really great relationship. We have a phenomenal relationship. I
So
still get
good.
uncomfortable when I have to tell you uncomfortable truths
Same.
and when we have to have difficult conversations. It's because of how much I care about the relationship, and
Yeah.
me not learning how to self soothe in that moment is going to impair our ability to have this relationship continue down the path that it can and that it
Mhm.
needs to. You said something in one of the previous episodes. You said that healthy conflict is a really important aspect of relationships. And when it comes to fighting, it, like quote unquote fights,
Mhm.
the ability to really say your truth and not take it back and to be able to just sit in that allows for healthy conflict, which will then allow the relationship to grow into what it's capable of being. So if Amelia didn't know and learn how to challenge her thought, so which was the first step, so identify the biggest fear and then challenge it, say the truth, and then regulate herself afterwards so she doesn't end up fawning or taking it back or appeasing.
Mhm.
Now, her and this person, their relationship grew and expanded. So, those are the three steps. Um, M. Final takeaway, episode suggestion, anything left to add?
Man, I would just say, and just to clarify, the relationship grows together so long as both people do have the growth mindset, because you can have conflict or you can fight, but if one person has a fixed mindset, it will likely, your fear is going to be validated because that person will stay fixed or will blow up or will make you feel bad about that truth or right. We've all been there before. When you have two people in a relationship, whether it be your intimate partner, you're telling them a hard truth, or whether it be like Bianca, you and I, business partners, friends, like if there's two true growth mindsets in that, whenever you do see a truth or share a truth or receive a truth, the person that receives that truth will recognize, even though it's so uncomfortable, that this is because that person cares so much. Sharing truths is because you care. If I didn't care about this one person, I wouldn't have shared this hard truth with them. And the relationship would just die on the vine. I'm not okay with that. And like many of our listeners, I'm sure you guys aren't okay with just the relationship suffering and dying on the vine. Many of us might be okay with it because then we won't have to maybe potentially put someone outside of their comfort zone. But who suffers in that equation? You suffer because you're not being heard. You're not really being able to show up in the relationship as your true authentic self. And we think that it's better off for the other person, but the truth is what helps enable those opportunities for people to grow. And so that's my final takeaway. Every time you choose not to express a hard truth, you're disabling the relationship from actually growing into something better than it could be. My final takeaway or episode suggestion is 268. This fear is holding you back. Vulnerability is absolutely required in telling hard truths. And man, I'm telling you, as someone who is formerly an avoidant attachment style on her journey to secure and already like definitely secure, but there's blips where I have, step backwards. Vulnerability is absolutely key to this process. You?
For sure. Episode suggestion 248: How to break toxic patterns in your life. If you're struggling to express hard truths, this is likely a pattern. This is likely a learned behavior and it can be broken. If this is something that you are struggling with, we have time allocated in our calendar where we do free calls with the community. We've had so many people already utilize it, and they said that it was a really amazing experience because they got like direct feedback in the moment on like a specific problem that they were having, or they got guidance on something, or they just had someone to sit there and listen to them when they probably didn't have that in their life. So, if learning
Mhm.
to say hard truths is something that you need help with, you're maybe looking for help in a specific situation because this was the evidence that you needed, that, oh shit, I need to tell someone the truth about something,
Mhm.
that link is in the description. So it's a Calendly link. So just click that link and it'll bring you directly to our calendar. All right, everybody. Have an amazing week and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Also, wait a second before we go. Happy birthday to
Oh,
Bianca, because
oh,
when this episode drops, it will be her birthday. So happy birthday, my friend.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Send her a
Bye,
DM,
everybody.
tell her how much you love her. Okay. Bye, everyone.